Well, he was a cultural icon because I think in the first place what brought him fame was science rather than politics or any other public activity. His science wasn't related directly to politics, but it did make him into, in 1919 actually, 1919 you can say is the date when he became launched as a great international figure, when the theory of relativity was proved experimentally through examination of the eclipse of the sun. The second thing is that his political interventions were all the more effective for coming outside the political system, for being outside the political arena and having his very peculiar stamp on them and not being part of the normal discourse, if you like, and being unique and interesting. And in that respect also, his métier was not politics but principles. And so he engaged in a kind of political debate which transcended the day-to-day politics. It was above and beyond it. But I think the other thing, perhaps most important, is his temperament and his ability to project a sense of it being a special personality, unique personality, who had an understanding of things which perhaps came from his science, which seemed to indicate that he understood what nobody else did, you know, the sort of motions of history itself. And in that respect, I think he had a status rather like Gandhi or Albert Schweitzer, in that he projected a great sense of moral depth. And he also had this extraordinary ability to come out with pithy epigrams and, you know, God doesn't play dice with the world, for example, which has rather complex meaning but related to his idea of physics, but it is typical of many of the statements he was able to come up with, I think. And so all that together in a package, plus his appearance, his modesty, the projection of a kind of deep humanity, which enabled him to transcend the political sphere. First and foremost, internationalism. He was somebody who grew up with a very ambivalent feeling about nations and nationhood. I say ambivalent. He was born in Germany, but by the time he was 16, he had left Germany, rejected his German citizenship, gone to live in Switzerland. Basically, because his parents left Germany, they went to Italy, but he went to Switzerland to be educated further. And partly also to avoid having to serve in the German army. So from the beginning, he never identified himself strongly with Germany as a nation. In fact, later on, that became a guiding theme of his life. Once Hitler came to power, a deep suspicion of the idea of German nationhood as it was manifested then. But he rejected it early on. His internationalism is almost instinctive, you know. But also he grew up at a time, it came to political maturity, at a time when the world was, if you like, globalism was becoming a fact of life. International transport, international communications, and so on. And if you like, the First World War, the World War, the global conflict, was a focus of his first political activity. He grew up in an age in which he naturally identified with transnational issues, war, peace, and so on. So that's the first thing. He was an internationalist, but he was a liberal internationalist. But he was definitely on the radical end of liberalism, towards socialism. And again, he came to political maturity at a time when liberalism and left-wing liberalism and socialism were kind of meshed to some extent. So he sometimes called himself a socialist, but he also retained a very strong element of individualism, which is at the core of liberalism. So he was a radical liberal internationalist, is how you, in a nutshell, you could describe it.